Welcome on this Thursday, June the 20th, year of our Lord 2019. I'm David Knight, your host. We're going to take a look at the reparations trials, or should I say recriminations. The Democrats are trying to create tribal warfare. And quite frankly, they want a very messy divorce between white people and black people. And anybody that's seen a divorce trial develop with your friends, pretty much everybody knows many people have been divorced today. You know how people who used to be the two closest people on earth, once they start going through a divorce proceeding, you notice how nasty things get? Well, you know, that's what they want to have happen here in the United States. Because for these people who are pushing it in Congress, they don't care if they burn down America. You know, just like the angry litigants in a divorce will basically burn down their own family, burn down their own fortune, trying to get even with the other side. And that's what they want to create here. They want to create a great American divorce. Well, fortunately, we have some rational people that were allowed to speak at the hearing yesterday, even though they had to call for calm many times when a rational young man pointed out what was happening with it, a black man. And also Burgess Owens made some great statements about what has happened to the black community, what is really needed in the black community. A spirit of entrepreneurism, Christian ethics. He said all of this stuff has been lost as the black leadership betrayed them after the civil rights movement and became elitists. They figured that they could make a lot of money running this scam. That's basically what the Democrats have always done. And so Burgess Owens really did a great job, former football player, calling out what's going on with that. Before we get into that, however, I want to talk about this near terrorist attack on a Christian church in Pittsburgh. This is a 21-year-old Pittsburgh resident. Actually, he's a Syrian refugee, a dreamer, a dreamer. How could it possibly go on? This is a young dreamer come to America. This is the dream of the Democrat Party. They want more people like this. Couldn't possibly happen this way. And let me tell you, if he'd gotten away with this, bombing a black Christian church, it would have been blamed on white extremists. This guy's 21 years old. He came here in August of 2016 during the Obama administration, 18-year-old dreamer. He just graduated from high school, they said, at the age of 21. They charged him with one count of attempting to provide material support and resource to ISIS, 2 counts of distributing information relating to an explosive, destructive device, or a weapon of mass destruction in relation to a plan to attack a church, reports the local news there, WTAE.com. They said he planned to bomb the Legacy International Worship Center using a weapon of mass destruction. The FBI said that he thought he was plotting online and in person. He met multiple times with FBI agents to work out the details. He thought he was meeting with fellow ISIS sympathizers working with him online. They were actually undercover agents for the FBI. I'm grateful nothing happened, said the pastor, and I'm grateful that we are able to show that God covered us, protected us, that people are still alive, that people are able to hug their children and loved ones. And he recently bought a number of items that could be used for making a bomb. He was seen on Sunday and Monday buying 6 boxes of nails to be used as shrapnel, explosives that he wanted to hide in a backpack and detonate by remote control would have likely killed many people in the surrounding Northside neighborhood, said officials, even if the church was empty. They said he also wanted to hide a second bomb, timed to go off just as Pittsburgh police and first responders arrived at the scene. They also said that he was intending to leave an ISIS flag to claim credit, and he would accompany it with a sign saying, "We've arrived. We've arrived." Well, it's good news that that was shut down. But let's talk about the other ways that our policies are being used to set up a civil war against us. Get ready with a clip of Quillette. That would be the video number 1. I want to play some of this. It's a very long testimony, so we won't play the entire amount, but it is very good. This is a writer for a website called Quillette, Coleman Hughes. And I went to the website. I wasn't really familiar with it. And one of the trending articles there at the top, recent article, the conservative manifesto buried in the Avengers Endgame. And I thought, what? This is not a conservative side. I went to read the article, and basically the rationale, as I said at the top of the hour, was, well, okay, look at this. They obviously are conservatives because they want to go back in time when everything was great. Before half of the universe's population was wiped out. Those conservatives. Most of them Avengers, more than half of the Avengers wiped out as well. So they want to go back in time. They want to make the Avengers great again, MAGA. So obviously, they're conservatives. Now, that's the kind of movies that Disney makes nowadays, right? Conservative films. And so clearly, this is not a conservative site. But I want you to hear what one of their writers, Coleman Hughes, had to say. As they had to call multiple times, the chairman had to tell the audience to chill, let him talk, because they don't like to let people talk, especially when they're making so much sense, as Coleman Hughes. Here he is.
With slave labor, and because of the work of Representatives Jesse Jackson Jr. and Zach Wamp, the new visitor center is named Emancipation Hall in that recognition. Mr. Coleman Hughes is a columnist for Quillette and has worked as a freelance opinion writer since January 2018. He's had pieces published in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the National Review, the City Journal, and the Spectator. He's studying philosophy at Columbia University, and we appreciate your attendance, and you're recognized for 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Cohen, Ranking Member Johnson, and members of the committee. It's an honor to testify on a topic as important as this one. Nothing I'm about to say is meant to minimize the horror and brutality of slavery and Jim Crow. Racism is a bloody stain on this country's history, and I consider our failure to pay reparations directly to freed slaves after the Civil War to be one of the greatest injustices ever perpetrated by the U.S. government. But I worry that our desire to fix the past compromises our ability to fix the present. Think about what we're doing today. We're spending our time debating a bill that mentions slavery 25 times, but incarceration only once, in an era with no black slaves, but nearly 1 million black prisoners. A bill that doesn't mention homicide once, at a time when the Center for Disease Control reports homicide as the #1 cause of death for young black men. I'm not saying that acknowledging history doesn't matter. It does. I'm saying there's a difference between acknowledging history and allowing history to distract us from the problems we face today.
Hold it right there. He nailed it right there. You want to use history so that you don't confront the problems that we face today, so that you don't do anything about what we face today. It's one of the reasons why you have Van Jones and others applauding President Trump because of criminal justice reform. It was just a first step. That's what they called it, first step. But at least it was something. It was something that was never done by Obama. It was something that was never done by any Republicans or Democrats. It wasn't done by Bill Clinton. As a matter of fact, Biden put that yoke, and Hillary and the Clintons put that kind of yoke on the black community, locking them up in massive numbers, primarily for possession and use of marijuana. I mean, go back and think about at least the alcohol prohibition was done legally, and it wasn't a UN agenda. There wasn't any UN back then. It grew up organically. They looked at the damage from alcohol, and they said, well, I think we need to try to stop that by force. It was a failure, but at least they amended the Constitution. We have the 18th Amendment and the 21st Amendment to make it legal again. So they had respect for the rule of law. They realized when they had a failed experiment. But they never went after the end users, not like they did under Reagan and on after that. They didn't start locking, but they were just going after the Al Capones and so forth. They weren't going after the end user. And when they went after the end user, and they put mandatory minimums on it as well, that's when they started locking people up. You could do some things to fix what's going on right now, but instead they don't want to do that. They want to manufacture a problem. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You just heard some quotes. We're going to hear a little bit more from writer Coleman Hughes, who testified about slavery reparations on Congress yesterday. House Judiciary Committee Subcommittee, Subcommittee on the committee to hear more about reparations. And again, this is about recriminations, it's about tribal warfare, and he basically called it like it is. He said, look, I'm not going to downplay try to minimize the horror, the brutality, of slavery and Jim Crow. But he said you should have paid it, should have been paid to the slaves who were freed immediately afterwards. It would have been a good idea. Should have been done. But see, they don't ever see people as individuals. They see people as groups. And they don't want to solve problems. They want problems to fester so that they can be used to divide people, to achieve office. They want to be able to exploit dependency. That's what Burgess Owens talked about later on. But let's go back to Coleman Hughes again, talking about this. As he was saying, we don't need another apology. We need safer neighborhoods. We need better schools. We need a less punitive criminal justice system. We need affordable health care. None of these things can be achieved through reparations for slavery. And I would say none of these things are going to be achieved through even Democrat policy, if they even got to that point. That's why they don't want to talk about it. They don't have any solutions for any of those problems. Those are all problems. Those are all legitimate problems. And there are different approaches to take to solve this. I mean, you can try to get everything solved in Washington, but that isn't ever going to happen. You can try to get everything solved by government, but that isn't ever going to happen. You can just have these people take over every single one of these aspects of your life. They can take over your schools. They can take over your health care, but they're not going to make it any better. They're going to make it worse. They don't have solutions. All they do is create problems, and this is the latest problem that they're creating, reparations. Why? Because it is politically expedient for them. It works for them. And the whole idea, and he said, look, I've voted Democrat all my life. The whole idea that all these problems would be solved by them is exactly what they want you to think. That's why people vote Democrat. But he's starting to see that that isn't the case. Let's go back and play a little bit more from Coleman Hughes, writer for Quillette.
In 2008, the House of Representatives formally apologized for slavery and Jim Crow. In 2009, the Senate did the same. Black people don't need another apology. We need safer neighborhoods and better schools. We need a less punitive criminal justice system. We need affordable health care. And none of these things can be achieved through reparations for slavery.
Ooh,
Nearly everyone close to me told me not to testify today. They told me that even though I've only ever voted for Democrats, I'd be perceived as a Republican and therefore hated by half the country. Others told me that by distancing myself from Republicans, I would end up angering the other half of the country. And the sad truth is that they were both right. That's how suspicious we've become of one another. That's how divided we are as a nation. If we were to pay reparations today, we would only divide the country further, making it harder to build the political coalitions required to solve the problems facing black people today.
Which is exactly what the Democrats want.
We would insult many black Americans by putting a price on the suffering of their ancestors. And we would turn the relationship between black Americans and white Americans from a coalition into a transaction, from a union between citizens into a lawsuit between plaintiffs and defendants. What we should do is pay reparations to black Americans who actually grew up under Jim Crow and were directly harmed by second-class citizenship, people like my grandparents. But paying reparations to all descendants of slaves is a mistake. Take me, for example. I was born 3 decades after the end of Jim Crow into a privileged household in the suburbs. I attend an Ivy League school. Yet I'm also descended from slaves who worked on Thomas Jefferson's Monticello plantation. So reparations for slavery would allocate federal resources to me, but not to an American with the wrong ancestry, even if that person is living paycheck to paycheck and working multiple jobs to support a family. You might call that justice. I call it justice for the dead at the price of justice for the living.
Oh, this guy's good.
I understand that reparations are about what people are owed, regardless of how well they're doing. I understand that. But the people who are owed for slavery are no longer here, and we're not entitled to collect on their debts. Reparations, by definition, are only given to victims. So the moment you give me reparations, You've made me into a victim without my consent. Not just that, you've made 1/3 of Black Americans who poll against reparations into victims without their consent.
Hold it right
and
there.
Black Americans.
Yeah, well, you know, Democrats don't care about consent, do they? I mean, we've been talking about this almost every day. The attempts by Democrats to remove informed consent, even when it comes to health care, right? When it comes to vaccines. Oh, not going to have any informed consent. I've got an update on that as well. You will not believe what is in this bill in California from Senator Pan, this shill for the pharmaceutical industry out there, was sent it by Megan Fox, who I interviewed 2 days ago. Absolutely amazing. They do not care about health care. They don't care about choice. They don't care about consent, and they certainly don't want you informed. And as Coleman Hughes was saying there, he said, how does this work? He goes, yeah, my grandparents suffered some damages under Jim Crow. But he goes, look, I've gone to great schools. I got a great job and everything. You're going to, because I'm descended from people who were slaves or people who suffered under Jim Crow, but I didn't suffer, you're going to take money and give it to me? You're going to take it from somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck? Some poor white person in West Virginia or something? You're going to take it from them? That's where this whole thing blows up. But see, the Democrats don't ever treat anybody as individuals. Everybody to them is just a group. And it becomes so clear-cut when you divide people into groups. Then you can foment division and hatred and civil war. And that's exactly what these people want. They want another civil war. And they will get it if they do this. As he pointed out, you're going to create a massive lawsuit. Massive lawsuit. A massive divorce lawsuit between people based on their skin color. And it gets even more complicated than he was saying. You don't have clear lines of ancestry for most people, right? Just look at Obama himself. Half black, half white. Yes, I know we forget about the white side, don't we? But he's only half black. So what does he do? Does he pay reparations to himself? What do his kids do? Where do they fall on this? You know, does somebody as privileged as Obama building a $500 million library to worship himself, this giant monument of self-worship there in Chicago? Is he going to get reparations because he's half black? Does he get half of the reparations that other people get? I don't know really how that works. Does he need anything else? I mean, we're paying him, still paying him his salary, even though he's gone as president. That's what we do to all the presidents. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. We've been listening to some statements made by Quillette writer Coleman Hughes. Spot-on comments talking about how the Democrats are not interested in solving problems. They're not interested in looking at individuals. They want to treat people as groups. They would like to burn down this country with another civil war, with a massive lawsuit, a massive divorce between black people and white people. Burgess Owens had a lot of great comments to heal this, and we're going to play his clip next. But I just want to give you one more quote from Coleman Hughes. I'll read it to you myself because the testimony is actually quite long. He finished up by saying, and this is really what brought out the audience booing him, to the extent that the chairman there, Steve Cohen, had to bang the gavel and say, chill, 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 chill. Not order, order, just chill, chill. He said he was presumptive, but he still has the right to speak. We're hanging on to that right to speak by a thread. By a thread. Most of the people in Congress don't do that. It was put him in an embarrassing situation that he had to actually say he has a right to speak. We don't have rights to speak anymore. We can't have the toleration of a different opinion, especially because what he had to say was so spot on. And I'll just give you this last quote from him that really set them off. He said, "The question is not what America owes me by virtue of my ancestry. The question is what all Americans owe each other by virtue of being citizens of the same nation." Kind of paraphrasing JFK, right? And the obligation of citizenship is not transactional. It is not contingent on ancestry. It never expires. It can never be paid off. And for all these reasons, Bill H.R. 40 is a moral and a political mistake. Exactly right. And that set them off.
You're listening to The David Knight Show. It's never been easy to figure out the essentials of a new supplement routine. That's why we created the 8-Pack Power Stack, your go-to option for the building blocks of a successful approach to supplementation. This one-stop shop for those looking to simplify or adjust their routine is perfect for new and old info warriors alike. With the 8-Pack Power Stack, there's no trial and error, messy bottles laying across the counter, or 20-minute morning habits. Just take the Wake Up and Work or Rest and Recover packs each day for quick, easy-to-use, and conveniently accessible formulas to help you reach your peak without the deep supplement knowledge, stacks of bottles, and complicated routine. Featuring 8 different formulas for a total take on your health and wellness. You can find what you like and get even more powerful versions in the store. Head to InfoWarsStore.com and check out 8-Pack Power Stack today and jumpstart your supplement routine.